Okay, Mr. Osterloh, are you ready and are all your people available?
Yes, Chairman Schmidt.
Okay, all right, thank you. I see Mr. Rowland, Mr. Thomas, and Judge Taylor. Are you on the line? Yeah, okay. I think I...
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. All right,
Yeah,
we'll get started. Good morning. We are now on the record in case number 2020-00219, electronic application of AEUG Madison Solar, LLC, for a certificate of construction for an approximately 100 megawatt merchant electric solar generating facility in Madison County, Kentucky. My name is Michael Schmidt. I'm chairman of the Kentucky Public Service Commission and also serve as chairman for the Kentucky State Board on Electric Generation and Transmission Siting, and I will be presiding at the hearing this morning. Joining me today via video conferencing are, I guess, 4 perhaps, or 5 of the other siting board members. Kent Chandler, the vice chairman of the Public Service Commission, will not be attending this morning, but will be watching this from his home. So with us will be Dr. Talina Matthews, the Commissioner of the Public Service Commission, Charlie Rowland, Executive Advisor with the Cabinet for Economic Development, serving as proxy for Interim Secretary Larry Hayes, Madison County Judge Executive Reagan Taylor, first ad hoc appointee, and Dick Thomas, second ad hoc appointee. The last member of the siting board, John Lyons, Deputy Secretary of the Energy and Environment Cabinet, serving as proxy for Secretary Rebecca Goodman, is unable to attend the hearing today due to a scheduling conflict, but will review the video transcript and fully participate in the decision on this matter. At this time, I would normally caution attendees to please set your cellular phones to silent mode or turn them off. Due to the current state of emergency in Kentucky, the siting board is hosting this hearing via video conferencing. Since this continues to be a learning experience, and believe me, we know that's true, for everyone, there are a few suggestions I would offer. In addition to the normal courtesies regarding cell phones, these tips may help with clarity and avoid feedback issues for the video conference hearing. First, mute your microphone if you are not speaking. Attorneys, when interjecting, please state your name so the video record is clear. If you use a phone for the audio and a computer for the video, turn off the computer audio. Otherwise, there will be feedback. If you are in a room with several people on their own computers, turn off the computer audio for all but one computer. Otherwise, there will be feedback. If another participant is in a nearby office, close the doors between the offices. Sound carries further than one thinks, which can cause feedback. Once in the GoToMeeting software platform, go to your settings. The icon looks like a gear. To ensure the microphone setting is on the microphone you are using. There's a pull-down menu feature in GoToMeeting settings that will list the available microphones. Use wired headphones or wired earbuds for better sound quality. Wired is preferred because wireless devices may lose power depending upon the length of the hearing. Keep a charger nearby in case your battery runs low. And please alert the siting board if you're experiencing a technology failure that prevents your participation at any time in the proceedings. Attorneys should contact staff at the previously provided cell phone number. The hearing today is for the purpose of taking evidence on AEUG Madison Solar's application requesting a certificate of construction for a 100 megawatt merchant electric generating solar facility to be located in Madison County, Kentucky. At this time, I would ask counsel for Madison Solar to please introduce himself identify his client and the witnesses who are with him today and who may provide some testimony in this matter.
Good morning, Chairman Schmidt and members of the citing board. My name is Todd Osterloh on behalf of AEUG Madison Solar LLC. And with us here today, we have potential witnesses Adam Stratton, who's with Acciona, Kyle Gerking, who's with Tenaska, April Montgomery, who is with SWCA Environmental Consultants, Dr. David Loomis, who's with Strategic Economic Research, as well as Will Brown and Carrie Comstock, who are with Complex Property Tax Specialists.
Okay, thank you. And for citing board staff?
Quan Nguyen, Your Honor. Thank you.
Well, I know that checking the record, that public notice has been given and filed in the record. And is that correct, Mr. Osterloh?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Now, there are, I think, a couple at least outstanding confidentiality motions or petitions that have not been ruled upon. As we go through the hearing, Mr. Osterloh, if one of the witnesses or if one of the citing board members happens to venture into an area that where you may think we're getting into some confidential material, please tell us, and then we'll go into confidential session so as to protect your client's interest in those materials, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Now I guess we're ready for public comment. I would say to those people who are calling in, I don't know if you can, what you can do about your phone or what you can do about muting, but you have to understand that there is an echo or a feedback when you aren't muted, when it isn't your turn to speak, and all that does is make it difficult for our reporter to basically type into the record what your comments are, and it makes it extremely difficult for the rest of us to be able to hear and understand what you're saying. All right? So at this time, should anyone from the public like to provide the citing board with public comment, instructions to call in are located on the Public Service Commission's website, psc.ky.gov. The phone lines will remain open for several minutes at the start of the hearing and closed if there are no callers or after everyone has had an opportunity to speak. Should you call in, please state your name and address for the record before making your statement, and please keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. If there is more than one caller, please be respectful and allow one person to make a statement at a time. If you have called in to provide public comment and are also watching the hearing via the Public Service Commission's YouTube link, please mute or close the YouTube hearing broadcast so as not to cause feedback. Lastly, it should be noted that comments may always be submitted on the PSC's website at psc.ky.gov. I would also say, and I guess we're going to take those who would like to speak, members of the public, one at a time. And I would also point out that this is a purpose for each person to make their feelings clear about the project about which we are hearing today. There will not, however, be any comment by members of the staff or by Madison Solar. And we had one of these hearings a week or two ago where two of the people making public comment got into what appeared to be an argument with each other. So we can't have that. So please be respectful and make your statement. And if you disagree with something someone else says, you may file a written comment or something here. But this is not a forum for debate among public members. Right, at this time, the first caller is Jennifer Napier. Ms. Napier, if you are on the line, please state your name and address and then proceed with your comment.
Hi, yes, this is Jennifer Napier, and I do want to say that there is a lot of feedback on the line, so I was really having a trouble trying to understand. But I represent the Berea Chamber of Commerce.
Ms. Napier,
Yes.
before you get started, this is Quan Nguyen on behalf of the Kentucky Citing Board. There is someone on the line that I believe has the YouTube link of the hearing on, and that's what we're hearing the feedback on. So whoever it is that's watching via the YouTube link, could you either put that on mute or just close that off? And then for the rest of the callers, could you put yourself on mute or just not talk so that there's no other background noise or feedback when we're taking public comments? Thank you so much. Sorry about that, Ms. Napier. You can continue.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I am Jennifer Napier, and I am the immediate past president and the current treasurer for the Berea Chamber of Commerce, and the address for that is 424 Chestnut Street in Berea, Kentucky. And I would just like to read a prepared statement with our board of directors that we were in support of Acciona. As the immediate past and current, I'm sorry, there was feedback. As the immediate past president and current treasurer of the Berea Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, I have conferred with our board members, and we wish to extend our support for Acciona's solar energy project in Madison County. We firmly believe this is an exciting opportunity for all of Madison County and our surrounding region. Construction of this project provides an opportunity to diversify our local economy, yet allows for the retention of our county's natural landscape. Berea is known for its support of green energy, self-sufficiency, investing local, and welcoming new businesses, ideas, and people of all backgrounds. Although the construction of this solar project may not be in Berea, we welcome the opportunities it will bring to our community. Berea offers housing, education, recreation, shopping, and more, which will contribute to the quality of life for those who will work and visit Acciona's solar project in Madison County, directly impacting Berea's economy. Berea will also indirectly benefit through an increased tax base resulting from Acciona's presence, providing investments in the county schools, roads, infrastructure, and more. Prior to indicating our support for Acciona, we researched and questioned representatives of Acciona to better understand this project and its impact on Madison County. We now stand with our community partners in supporting this project. We believe this project will offer the best use of our county's natural land and believe in its positive financial impact. Established long-term leases will preserve the land and return it to pre-project agricultural status upon lease expiration. It is now up to you to support a project whose impact will have minimal strain on Madison County's resources throughout the life of the lease on those properties. The construction of Acciona's solar project in Madison County will promote a vision of modernization and energy sustainability, attracting additional green energy innovators for future developments and investments into our county. Your support of this development will inject millions of dollars into Madison County's long-term economy, while also enabling lifetime careers and jobs with profitable wages for local and regional candidates to pursue. Most of all, we envision a future where access to unique and rare solar opportunities via a local solar project being housed within Madison County could gain students and job seekers immediate access to local STEM education and careers. Simply by having access to a local solar project, we may witness increased motivation and ownership of high-tech skills for future unique economic development projects locally. As such, we encourage you to support Acciona in moving forward with their plans for a solar project in Madison County and allow them to become a quality community partner who is invested in our future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Napier. Next is Charles Hamilton. Mr. Hamilton, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Please state your name and address and then proceed with your comment.
My name is Charles Hamilton. I live at 1832 Red House Road in Richmond, Kentucky.
Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you. I would like to voice my support of this project as well. I live in the middle of this project. My neighbor approached me and a while back saying that he was going to participate in this. I would much rather see the farms around me with solar panels that can be reverted back to farmland in 30 years versus subdivisions, which is what normally happens in Madison County. So I'm fully in support of this. We bought our little farm to build a house on and try to do something with, but there's just not the ability to do that for us. Pretty quickly, realized that we couldn't use the farm like we wanted to. So, you know, the ability to put solar on our property as well, you know, a small portion is going to help out tremendously with my family's future, as well as the land itself, maintaining the land itself. That's really all. I didn't have a good prepared statement, but very much in support of this project. Acciona has been very forthcoming with every bit of information from day one, and they've been great to deal with on my part. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Next, Larry Jones. Mr. Jones, please state your name and address, and then you may proceed with your comments. Mr. Jones, are you on the line? Well, let's go to the next caller. Maybe Mr. Jones will call back in. Hank Ballinger. Mr. Ballinger, are you with us?
Yes, sir.
All right, please state your name and address, and then you may go forward with your comments.
Yes, my name's Hank Ballinger. I live at
My name is Larry Jones. I live at 200.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Jones. You were next. We thought you had been disconnected or
Larry
something.
Jones. I live at 2.
Yeah, somehow you're fading out, Mr. Jones.
My name's Hank Ballinger. I live at Larry Jones. I live at 200. Go ahead, Mr. Jones. You were there. We thought you were.
We've got a problem. I don't know what it is.
Mr. Jones, I think you have your YouTube link on, and we're getting some.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Go ahead and speak.
Okay, I live at 200 Bennett Court, Richmond, Kentucky.
All right, you may proceed with your statement, Mr. Jones.
All right, I'm a landowner for the proposed solar farm. Okay.
Yeah, do you have something else to say, Mr. Jones?
I'm a landowner for the proposed solar farm. Okay. I'm a landowner for the proposed solar farm and a proponent for this project. This project will benefit many different areas of economic growth for Madison County. Besides the many devastating effects the COVID-19 pandemic has had on our community, the county will soon suffer another financial blow when the CSAP project out at the Bluegrass Army Depot ceases to exist. They are winding up the construction of the ammunitions at the depot, and it's supposed to be wrapped up by the end of 2023. So to have this solar farm project come to Madison County would greatly enhance the future outlook of our area. Jobs will be created. There will be significant additional tax revenue and lease payments to the landowners, to name but a few benefits. Plus, these benefits are going to be realized without an increase in demand for schools or any other public services. That means it will not be a drain on the public school system. This project will also make Madison County attractive to companies that want to power their operations with renewable energy. This is a passive energy project. Keep in mind, this is a green energy and doesn't leave a carbon footprint. And the best part of this solar farm is that it is a land lease and not a land sale. At the end of the project, the property will be returned to the landowners in the same condition as it was when it was leased. Who knows, this solar farm might be the only agricultural land left in this part of the county at the end of the lease. Acciona has attempted through a variety of media sources, including newspaper articles, virtual events, and a recent live event, to inform our community of their intentions and the benefits that this project will offer to the whole area. This project was approved by the Madison County Adjustments Board by a 4-0 vote. The property owners involved are not encroaching on anyone. The Adjustments Board made sure that highway setbacks will be imposed and fencing is required. My farm is a 4th-generation farm, and our children will one day inherit it. Farming is becoming increasingly harder to make a living on due to the cattle market prices and the inability to hire help. If anyone's ever farmed, they know about the help situation. This solar farm may be the best avenue to be able to maintain ownership of our land. The property owners involved are only trying to do what is best for their families, and I don't feel like other individuals who've never farmed for a living should be able to tell you what you have to do with your own property. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you. Now, Hank Ballinger. Mr. Ballinger, I'm sorry we got messed up a minute ago, so if you want to make a comment now, please state your name and address, and then you may proceed directly with your comments.
Thank you. My name is Hank Ballinger. I live at 510 Three Forks Road. Part of the program here for Acciona. I think it'd be a good program for Madison County on several levels. One, it will provide jobs, which is needed for any community for growth and to continue to build taxes. It's an important economic development for Madison County. I think there's a few programs coming in, but I think Acciona is the only one that, as Mr. Jones said, would not leave a carbon footprint, but it also kind of fits the mandates of what America and the world is kind of looking to the future for clean energy. Also, it's very attractive for Madison County for other renewable sources of energy to come in, wind, solar. I'm from Jackson County, Kentucky, which is a county adjacent to Madison County. And in Jackson County, not a lot of opportunity. Thus the reason I'm in Madison County. Jackson County is a great county, but there's not a lot of opportunity. So if we continue to have opportunity in Madison County, it will build the county up. And you don't only want to build a county up, but you want to build it up in a proper manner. And so I think Acciona is a step in the right direction, and I think it'd be good for our community and just good for this area. I do appreciate your taking the time to listen to us, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ballinger. Next, John Tellick. Mr. Tellick, if you're on the line, please state your name and address, and then you may proceed with your comments.
Yes, sir. My name is John Tellick, 322 Water Street, Richmond, Kentucky, Madison County.
Yeah, you may go ahead, Mr. Tellick, and make your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone, and I'd like to thank everyone for providing me the opportunity to speak this AM. As a solar business owner myself, who has returned to Kentucky after many years away, I'm really elated to have an experienced and reputable company such as Acciona to become a part of our community. I returned to Kentucky to help educate and grow the solar industry in our community here in Madison County because I believe it's the right thing to do for Kentucky and Madison County. Now, with the help of Sonia, our community can truly position ourselves as a leader in the solar space as well as attracting many positive attributes that come along with having a project like this in our county. I also recognize that Acciona has already actively working in our community from both a business and social perspective, and I believe they will continue to do so as they have expressed a desire to help better our community by supporting various initiatives and programs, one of which is a involved in that would not only lend aid to those suffering from addiction and their families, but also assist in helping our county with the issue of overcrowding in our county jail. On top of this, the taxing districts that will receive incremental revenues from this project will not go unnoticed and are greatly needed. Finally, prior to my business career, I served this county for many years as both a certified paramedic and a police officer commander. So I do have a passion for the needs and best interests of the people of Madison County. With that said, I do truly believe that this project is a positive step toward the growth of our county, our state, and the needs of our residents. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Telly. And then Judy Jenkins. Ms. Jenkins, if you're on the line, please state your name, your address, and then you may go ahead and make your comments.
Excellent. Thank you very much. My name is Judy Jenkins. I live at 2965 Waterworks Road in Danville, Kentucky. I'm an associate professor of chemistry at a public university in Madison County. My research group works specifically on technologies related to sustainable energy capture, generation, and storage. And we're just thrilled to see a project of this size come to Madison County. From my perspective, one of Kentucky's strongest strengths is the way we use our land to supply our neighbors and our nation with consistent electricity. We did this for decades with coal, and now we get to continue our energy legacy as energy providers by using our land in a different way, by using our land to capture and share the energy that's in sunlight as electricity. For myself, it's exciting to see the atomic and molecular level research we work on come to market, and especially at this scale. And from the early days, Acciona has reached out to us to investigate ways we can better support each other in endeavors like this. I look forward to the continued positive impact of this project on Kentucky's energy legacy, and I'm grateful for the impacts that Acciona is already having on our community.
Ms. Jenkins, have you completed your statement?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Ms. Jenkins was the last person who I think had called in and requested an opportunity to speak, but if there is someone else on the line who has called in and would like to speak, you may please identify yourself now and then go ahead with your statement.
Yes, thank you.
Do we have another caller, or is this someone else?
Feedback.
All right. Apparently, there's no one else who would like to make a public comment with respect to this project. So, at this time, the public comment section of this hearing is closed. And Mr. Osterloh, at this time, you may call your first witness.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this may be somewhat out of logical order, but Dr. Loomis has a teaching commitment and TED 30. So what we would like to do, because it's our understanding that one of the topics that may be covered today is how property tax is calculated and the basis for the projected growth of property tax revenues in his economic impact study. I think we'd like to start with Dr. Loomis.
Okay. All right. If at some point, I'm not sure if we'll get into any confidential material, but if we do, we're going to leave it to you to tip us off and let us know, Mr. Osterloh. All right, Mr. Loomis, would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may proceed, Mr. Osterloh.
Thank you. Good morning, Dr. Loomis. Can you please state your name for the record?
My name is David Glenn, Glenn Loomis, Loomis.
And you're a professor at what institution?
I'm a professor of economics at Illinois State University.
And you're also affiliated with Strategic Economic Research LLC, is that correct?
That's correct. I'm president and owner.
Okay, and what is your business address there?
2705 Colby, Kolby Court. That's Bloomington, Illinois, 61704.
And can you briefly describe your educational background?
Yes, I have a PhD in economics from Temple University. Got that in 1995, and I have a master's degree as well in economics and an undergraduate degree in economics and mathematics.
Can you tell the siting board the scope of the work that you performed for this AEUG Madison project?
Yeah, my purpose in doing the work and what I was asked to do was to look at the economic impacts that would come to the community as a result of this project, what would be the community benefits, and look at the land use from an economic perspective.
Thank you, Dr. Loomis. Mr. Chairman, it may be best just to go ahead and turn over Mr. Loomis for questioning from staff and the siting board at this point in time.
All right, thank you. For the new members of the siting board, Judge Taylor and Mr. Thomas, Counsel Quan Nguyen will conduct an examination of witnesses first, and then we'll let Mr. Thomas, Judge Taylor, Mr. Rowland, and then Dr. Matthews and I. So we'll go in that order if any of you have any questions to ask. At this time, Mr. Nguyen, do you have a cross-examination?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. Good morning, Mr. Loomis. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, great. So the economic impact analysis or the economic impact report was filed as part of the application in this case at appendix, I believe it's appendix G to the first volume of the application. Is that correct?
I don't have the actual appendix number, but I believe that's the case.
Okay. And you were the person that developed that particular report?
That's correct.
Okay. And there's a section in the report that deals with property taxes. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And do you have the report with you?
I do.
Okay. On page 39, I believe, of the report, it provides a summary of the total projected property tax that could be generated by the solar project over the lifetime of the project. And it's estimated to be over $6.6 million. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that total is comprised of, I guess, three categories. Manufacturing machinery taxes, tangible personal property taxes, and real personal property taxes. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Could you describe how, for the real personal property taxes, how that was developed for each of the years?
Yeah, I was provided a tax spreadsheet from Asiona to work from as what they believed their taxes were going to be. And I changed some of the assumptions of that model, but I did not calculate those numbers myself. So I changed it because for their budgeting purposes, they had increases in the tax rate that would go up each year. And they also had a tax amount in 2023 that seemed not very certain up to the magnitude of that. And so for economic impact purposes, in order to be conservative, I made adjustments to what they had provided me. I did not include the 2023 tax amounts in there. And I also changed the assumptions for the tax rate to be zero, because I felt that was more conservative and in line with the economic impact purposes, as opposed to a budgeting purpose from a corporate perspective that they might want to, have higher assumptions.
Okay, so you made downward adjustments to the real personal property taxes?
Let me just, that was overall in the, yes, so the one-time 2023 expenditure is in manufacturing machinery tax. Or I'm sorry, it's intangible property. And then the real property, the only thing I did there was to take the tax rate increase and make that zero.
Okay, but the underlying data or the inputs you received from Acciona?
That's correct.
Okay. Are you familiar with how they developed those numbers that are used as inputs into your economic modeling?
I believe they have the other witnesses who developed these models that'll be testifying here today.
Okay. Were there any other adjustments that you made to the inputs that were provided to you from Acciona, other than the ones that you just mentioned?
No, I believe those were my only adjustments.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. Those are all the questions I have.
Mr. Thomas, do you have any questions of Mr. Loomis?
Mr. Chairman, this is Judge Taylor. Mr. Thomas had to use the restroom, so he's not here at the moment.
Okay. All right. Well, Judge, do you have questions?
I do not. No, sir.
We'll come back and give Mr. Thomas an opportunity in just a moment. Mr. Rowland, do you have questions of this witness?
I do not have any questions, Chairman.
Dr. Matthews, questions?
I don't have any questions, thank you.
I just have a couple. Mr. Loomis, do you anticipate an increase in the real property taxes that the county and the school board and local government will receive as a result of this project? And if so, why do you believe that's true? I'm talking about the area within the solar facility itself, and I'm talking about land.
So the real property, yes. I mean, I do believe there's going to be an increase in property tax revenue due to that land being improved by the project.
Are you familiar with, or do you have an idea why that would be the case? I mean, the land has a certain taxable value now at the Property Valuation Administrator's Office. Why do you expect that value will rise? Do you have any idea?
I've done work in different states looking at solar improvement, and in almost every case, there is an increase in the tax revenue that come and flow to all the taxing entities as a result of solar coming into a community.
All right, thank you. I have nothing else. Mr. Thomas, do you have any questions of Mr. Loomis?
Go ahead. Say.
No, Mr. Thomas, I do not have any questions.
Okay, thank you.
Hey,
All right, at
Mr.
this
Chairman,
time, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, this is Judge Taylor. If you don't mind, I think I do have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Loomis, the $6.6 million, was that the total? Is that the total in tangibles, real estate?
That's the total of manufacturing, machinery taxes, tangible personal property taxes, real personal property taxes, over the expected 30-year life of the project.
Okay. Okay. Do you know how much just, was there a breakdown on there just of the real property?
Yeah, the real property tax totals $2.6 million.
So 2.6 million per 30 years?
For the, total of
30
30
years.
years.
And that's for all our taxing districts in Madison County?
There may be a better witness that would say how that gets distributed, but
Okay.
That is just the real property.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. To follow up, Mr. Loomis, is this $2.6 million over 30 years, the real estate, the land that is within the boundaries of the solar project itself?
Again, there may be a better witness that would speak to the specifics of how that was calculated.
Well, right now, you don't know if that $2.6 million increase is for the county, Madison County at large, or just for the land within the boundaries of the solar project. Is that correct?
I was given the real property taxable value by Asiona, and I verified the tax rate and the the calculations, but I did not develop the taxable value or the area in which that would be applicable to.
Well, I'm not looking at the report right now, but what figure were you given for the taxable value of that real estate now, prior to the project?
I was not given that information.
Well, is the $2.6 million for the real estate land alone, is that $2.6 million, is that supposed to be the increase in property value that is a result of the facility, or is that just the total taxes over the 30-year period? I mean, the property's being taxed now on some basis.
Right, and I don't know the answer to that question.
I have nothing further. Mr. Nguyen, anyone else have a question for Mr. Loomis? Mr. Rowland, anything? Okay, Mr. Oslo, any redirect or direct of this witness?
No, Mr. Chairman.
May this witness be excused?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Loomis, thank you for your testimony, and you may be excused.
Thank you very much.
Input. Okay. All right, Mr. Oslo, do you have another witness?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we would like to call William Brown, who may be able to answer some of the information for this underlying Dr. Loomis's report. And I guess I'll note that it was my understanding in speaking with staff coming into this that maybe they weren't going to be delving into, or we wouldn't be delving into specific numbers. Certainly the specific numbers that are contained in Dr. Loomis's report are public, and there was no need to go into confidential session for that. Some of the information, if we get into specifics that Mr. Brown has knowledge of, may delve into confidential information. So I don't know what your preference is, Mr. Chairman, is to ask, for me to ask now to go into confidential session, or wait and see depending on the nature of the questions that come up.
I think it'd be best just to wait and see, and a question is asked that you think implies or implicates something that is within the scope of your confidential motion or petition, just let us know, and then we'll go into session. I would say this. I know that we've had two, I guess, hearings. The first two hearings the siting board had were conducted without, the first two cases were conducted without hearings. And now this is the third hearing, and I'm sure people, attorneys, would like to know whether we intend to have hearings in all of the future cases. And the commissioners, at least the three public service commissioners, discussed this among themselves a few days ago, and we've decided that, I think at least for now, that we intend to hold hearings and would expect some testimony. So we're trying to work through this as best we can to become familiar with the facilities and some of the benefits and potential burdens that may be on the community that they will be in. So just so you'll know, we're kind of we're exploring our way through this, but I think that we will, at least for the foreseeable future, be holding hearings and asking questions such as you'll get today. Okay?
Sure. And yet we're all exploring this together, so I appreciate your patience.
All right, thank you. Mr. Brown, will you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, I think you said yes, but it was kind of garbled. Mr. Osterloh, you may ask.
Thank you. And yeah, I guess we'll see, Will, if there is some issues with your technology, but would you please state your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Will Brown.
And for whom do you work?
Complex PTS.
And PTS stands for Property Tax Specialist, is that right?
Correct.
And what's your title there?
Manager.
And your business address, sir?
355 Fontaine Road, Southwest, Suite 150, Mableton, Georgia 30126.
Can you please describe your educational background briefly?
Yes, I have a bachelor's degree in real estate from the University of Georgia and a CCIM designation.
And can you describe your employment background?
19 years in property tax. 7 of those years were at a Big Four accounting firm, and the past 12 years or so have been with Complex PTS.
Thank you. And can you tell the siting board members what the scope of your work that you performed for this AEUG Madison project is or was?
Sure. Our firm was asked to prepare a property tax estimate for the life of the AEUG Madison project, and I was the primary researcher and preparer.
And is it your understanding that some of the inputs that you created or some of the information that you developed were input into Dr. Loomis's economic report?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Chairman, it's appropriate this time for staff to ask questions in siting board.
All right, thank you. Mr. Nguyen, questions?
Yes, just a few. Good morning, Mr. Brown. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. So, in addition to the real property taxes that you developed and provided as input into Dr. Loomis's economic impact modeling, did you provide inputs regarding manufacturing machinery taxes as well?
Yes.
Tangible personal property taxes as well?
Yes.
Okay. Just for my own knowledge, the manufacturing machinery taxes, it looks like over the 30-year life of the solar facility, it decreases each year. Can you explain why that's the case?
Yes. As any personal property or manufacturing machinery equipment it declines over time. The value does by physical deterioration. Technological advancements change as well, and so we apply the depreciation schedule to those areas.
Okay. Is that the same as the tangible personal property taxes? It decreases over the life of the solar facility as well?
Yes.
Okay. But yet the real personal property taxes increase annually each year over the life of the solar facility. So there's an expectation that the revenues generated from the property taxes will increase each year?
For the real property portion, yes.
Okay. Can you generally explain how you developed the real personal property taxes amounts for each of the years of the solar project?
Yes, just to clarify terminology, I believe you're looking at where the total is in the report. It says real and personal property tax, which is both together, but real property tax is separate than personal. So for real property tax, we need to determine the fair cash value of the property and then would multiply by the appropriate tax rates to get to the tax amounts. What we did to research this value or determine this value was research CoStar sales comps as well as assessment comparables of similar tracts of land, and then use our professional opinion to arrive at an estimated value per acre and apply it to our number of acres for the project.
Okay. Those are all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Mr. Thomas, do you have any questions of this witness?
No, I do not.
Okay. All right, Judge Taylor, any questions?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman. So just to clarify, the 6.6 million over the 30 years, that's not an increase in value. That's an actual increase in dollars paid in property taxes. Is that correct?
It's not necessarily the increase. That is the amount I estimated for these components. A large part of that is an increase, but as someone mentioned before, the real property had an existing value, so it's not just the increase.
Okay, so you all just said that this is going to be basically the new amounts paid then in. It's not necessarily an increase. Okay.
Correct.
So
The large
the
majority has an
numbers,
increase.
yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rowland, questions?
Yes, one question. I think this is just a clarifying question for me from Judge Taylor's question. So what would be the base? Do you have a base number without this solar project then? If you're saying that this... Okay.
I don't have the original base value for these.
Okay, that's my only question.
Dr. Matthews, questions?
So you can't say definitively that the 6.6 million is larger than the base level of the property tax on the property over the next 30 years.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification. I can definitively say it's larger, but so all of the manufacturing machinery and tangible personal property is new. So that all is full increase, and that's the majority of the tax that actually makes up about 3.3 million. Sorry for confidentiality, I apologize. That makes up more than half of the amount. The real property is a smaller component of that.
Okay, thanks, because it got confusing there for a second. Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything else.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Brown, let me try to understand. Did you or somebody under your direction and supervision make an estimate of the increase in the taxes applicable to real property, land, as a result of this construction of this solar facility?
I think I can clarify this by explaining the process. The majority of this property is an agricultural exemption.
Let me ask, just ask, did you make, does your estimate include all of Madison County or just the area within the boundary of the proposed solar facility?
The estimate used comparable properties throughout Madison County to estimate the value per acre by using comparable sized and similar tracts of land.
I know. Let me try to, apparently I'm not being clear. The increase in property taxes that you've computed is applicable to property, only property within the boundary of the facility. Isn't that correct? I mean, I assume that's what you did. You're not saying that, you're saying that property taxes will increase within the area of the solar facility, the real estate, the land, tax on the land, as opposed to the value of taxes in all of Madison County, including the city of Richmond and Berea and everywhere else. Is that correct?
Correct. It's only the increase in the property taxes within the boundaries of the facility.
Okay, fine. All right. Now, and that was calculated upon, the property within the boundary of the facility has a certain taxable, has a certain value now for tax purposes as estimated by the Madison County Property Valuation Administrator. Isn't that true?
Yes.
Did you have those figures? Did you get what the property values for tax purposes within the boundary of the proposed solar facility are now, prior to construction?
No, there's many parcels that makes up, but I did not have that original value.
Well, if you don't know what the original value is and what the tax is on that property, how can you possibly make any kind of reasonably accurate estimate of what the taxes are going to be over the next 30 years when you don't know what the base is now?
The existing property is under, like I said, agricultural use. Once the solar facility is installed, that agricultural use exemption no longer applies, and then you go to a fair cash value estimate value. So if I were to use the old value, it would be incorrect. So I had to determine a fair cash value and apply it to the land in the facility.
So if you didn't determine fair cash value, if you just looked at the figures that the property valuation administrator has on the property now, okay, and you removed the agricultural exemption for whatever that might be, you would automatically get an increase in taxes. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
But your estimate includes more than that because you have basically, through comparable sales or whatever, attempted to calculate an actual increase in the value of the property that's being used for this solar facility or used in connection with it. Is that correct?
Well, my task was not to calculate the increase. My task was to calculate what will the taxes be for the land in this facility, the land and improvements that is, because there's site improvements as well. So the number we're looking at here is what the tax will be, not the increase in tax.
Okay. So, all right. So the amount of the 2.6 million or whatever isn't an increase. It's just what the taxable value of that property will be, in your opinion, correct?
It's what the actual tax amount for the life of the project will be.
Will be. Okay. All right. Okay, I understand. All right. Thank you, Mr. Osterloh. Any questions?
No redirect, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Nguyen, or
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Rowland, Judge Taylor, Mr. Thomas, any questions?
No, we're good, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Matthews? No? All right. All right. Thank you, Mr. Brown. You may step down. You may be excused. Appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
Mr. Osterloh, do you have another witness?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and I guess we also had Kerry Comstock available, who's also with Mr. Brown's firm. But it sounds like he was going to cover the same subject matter that Mr. Brown covered. It sounds like that topic has been exhausted, so I guess we would ask that Mr. Comstock be excused as well.
Mr. Nguyen, any objection to excusing Mr. Comstock?
No, Your Honor.
Any of the other siding board members have any potential questions for Mr. Comstock, or any objection to him being excused? Okay, having none, Mr. Comstock, you may be excused. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we're exploring this together and figuring out the best process, the substantive topic that we communicated with staff that we knew needed to be addressed was what was previously covered. But we obviously have Mr. Stratton, Mr. Gerking, and Ms. Montgomery available. What's your preference? Would you just like me to go ahead and call those three witnesses individually for potential questions?
I think that would be fine. I know, let me say this just for me personally, my own interest is noise, all right? Noise and view. But as between the two, noise. So I guess going forward, at some point, I'd like to go to a solar facility that's in existence now and see how it works and listen to the motors at various distances. But we haven't done that, so we're in the dark and just sort of floundering around to try to get some information, okay, and get a handle on how best to help in the long run, the proposed solar facilities and also landowners who may, who have a substantial investment in their properties and have to live there but aren't getting any benefit from it in terms of a direct economic benefit, so that they can have some peace while they're home having dinner on Sunday afternoon or in the evening. So you see where we're going, at least that's where I'm going. And Dr. Matthews and Vice Chairman Chandler will probably have their own ideas or things that are particularly interesting to them. But I will say that in the past, as a practicing lawyer, I represented a great number of companies which have had issues with, I guess, adjoining property owners or those nearby about noise. And so I understand something about the topic, but I haven't heard myself how these transformers, how loud they are, or how loud the inverters are, other than to see the statistics that our consultants refer to and your experts talk about. So that's to give you something going forward. That's one of the reasons why we want to have some hearings to get some different information on, on those topics. So you may call whoever you like, and we'll see if we can get through it as quickly as possible.
Certainly, I appreciate that guidance and hearing from what you're interested in. I think that's good, and I think that also echoes the Board of Adjustments there in Madison County that had a lot of questions on those things, including then ultimately doing the conditional use permit and including a noise ceiling on there as well. But since we're talking maybe about noise and view, maybe the next best witness would be April Montgomery. So she'll be our next witness.
Thank you. Ms. Montgomery? Okay, Ms. Montgomery, will you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Osterloh, you may ask.
Thank you. And Ms. Montgomery, I know you testified before the siting board related to a Fleming County project, but for the benefit of our new members for this Madison County project, can you please state your name for the record?
April Montgomery,
For whom do you work?
SWCA Environmental Consultants.
What is your title there?
I'm a Director of Client and Technical Services.
And what is your business address?
201 Chatham Street, Suite 3, Sanford, North Carolina, 27330.
Can you briefly describe the scope of work that SWCA did for this Madison County project?
Sure. SWCA assisted Acciona in compiling the application and the site assessment report, and we also completed the noise and traffic study that is seen as Appendix C in the site assessment report.
Great, thank you. Mr. Chairman, Ms. Montgomery can respond to questions from staff and the siting board.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nguyen, questions?
Yes, just a couple of questions, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Montgomery. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Good morning.
Great. Just to refresh my memory, what is the closest non-participating residence in terms of feet to the nearest inverter?
I would have to look that up in the report. Our nearest sensitive receptor, I looked up the dB. I didn't look up the distance, but I can look that up if you can give me a few minutes.
Does 657 feet, does that ring a bell?
That sounds right. That sounds right.
Okay. So for the inverter, the closest property non-participating landowner is 657 feet from the inverter?
If that's what's in the report, yes.
Okay. And what is the noise that would be, the level of noise that would be generated by an inverter during operations of the solar facility?
Let me get to that. Apologies, I had lost my spot because I was looking at things based on the chairman's comments to be able to respond to that.
That's okay.
So for the nearest inverter to the 657 feet, the estimate is that it would be 53.4 dBA.
Okay. So is that the noise that property owner will hear just with respect to noise that's generated by the inverters?
Correct.
Okay, and at 53.4 decibels, what is that akin to? What type of noise is that akin to?
So if you look at page 5 of the noise study, it lists, let me get back there. I apologize, I'm having trouble scrolling here, but if you look at page 5 of the noise study, it has a table of construction equipment, and also in the noise study we have examples of dB levels. So those dB levels, I believe that is slightly louder than a residential subdivision at the closest inverter location.
can you say that one more time? It's allowed as a residential subdivision?
Yes, let me get to that table. I apologize, I don't have these printed out. So 50 dBA would be light auto traffic, residential air conditioner, private business office environment. 60 would be air conditioning unit, human voice, department store environment. So in between those two. And this is pulling from table 2.1-3 in the noise study.
Okay. So somewhere in between light auto traffic, air conditioning, that type of noise?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And would that be a constant noise that would be heard throughout the day?
Yes.
Is it only when it's in operation? So at nighttime, when the sun's not shining, will the inverter still be creating some noise, amount of noise level?
It would be creating some noise, but it wouldn't be a maximum noise level.
It wouldn't be at that 54.
Correct.
Okay. And then in terms of noise, with respect to the transformer, do you know what the closest property, the distance of the closest property to the transformer?
I do not, but I can look that up and get back to you.
Okay. Let me see. Were there, let me ask you this way. Were there any issues with respect to noise generated by the transformers on neighboring properties?
But I have found it. Just give me a minute. So in 2.3.3 of the noise study, we state that the nearest sensitive receptor to the transformer is a residential community approximately 1,000 feet to the west.
Okay. And at that distance, what is the noise that could be heard? What would be the noise level for that particular residential community?
I would have to look up the noise receptor for that particular facility or for that particular community, and I can look that up and then respond, but I don't have that right in front of me.
Okay. But that is included in the noise and traffic study?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But you don't recall if there were any significant issues with respect to the noise that would be generated by the transformers on neighboring properties?
Correct.
With respect to would you be the person that would be aware of any sort of outreach methods or outreach efforts that were made by AEUG Madison with respect to nearby property owners as it relates to noise issues either during construction or operations?
I would not. I believe that question is better directed to Adam or Kyle, but I will add that SWCA is conducting ambient noise studies in the project area next week and will likely interact with project landowners or neighboring landowners during those studies.
Okay, so you all are doing an ambient noise study at the Madison Solar location?
Correct.
Okay. Do you know how long that study will take?
It will take the whole of next week.
Okay, so it should be
There are
fine.
both long-term monitors and short-term monitors that go out for readings over time. And then we use that to calculate in to better inform the resulting noise from the project.
Okay, and when will I guess the study and the report will be completed?
If the weather cooperates next week, we anticipate that the report will be done by the middle of May.
What's our deadline, Mr. Nguyen?
I believe it's sometime in June. Let me look it up really quick, Your Honor.
I think the application was filed December 11th. So if it's 6 months, you frame then June the 11th or June 10th-ish.
Yeah, I believe the 11th may fall on a weekend, so we have a June 9th as the deadline.
And it's expected, Ms. Montgomery, that the report would be complete by the middle of May, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And I would ask, and I guess we can send a data request for that report, but if something happens that report is delayed, but you have the statistics or the draft in some form that you can form an opinion, I would appreciate if you'd file that. If something happens that you can't get the complete report in time before we're required to enter an order.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Nguyen, go ahead.
That's quite all right, Your Honor. Those are all the questions I have.
Okay, Mr. Thomas, do you have any questions of this witness?
No.
No? Judge Taylor, questions?
No, sir. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rowland, any questions?
Yes.
Okay. I think you're on mute, Mr. Rowland, so you'll need to unmute. All right, you're ready, I think.
I think I was double clicking. It's going on and off. Ms. Montgomery, for the study that you're starting next week, you said there's both a short-term and long-term components as far as the noise. What are the lengths of the long-term's impacts, and how are those monitored?
Sure. So the long-term monitors will be out for a minimum of 48 hours, and we want that to be 48 hours without rain, which spring is a fun time for that. So we want that for 48 hours without rain, so we can try to get a read on community noise over that period of time, and there are multiple locations for that. The short-term monitors there are several more of those, I think 4 times the number of short-term monitors than long-term monitors, and they happen in 15 to 30-minute intervals at various, and both of these are spread throughout the project.
Okay, and how do you determine the location of where you set those monitors?
We base it on area. We try to do it with proximity to noise receptors in the area. Also, if there are things in the area that we think are going to emit noise that we want to make sure we capture, we will put it there, and then we also try to distribute it evenly across the project so that we make sure that we're getting an even read. And then landowners have to agree for us to locate it on their property.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all the questions for me.
Okay. Dr. Matthews?
Yes. When you said the 53.4 dBA was similar to a residential subdivision, give me a little more color around that. That's kids screaming in the street, that's cars going up and down, that's air conditioners kicking on and off.
Well, that's That is generally a residential area. I don't know all, that's the criteria that's in the table of reference for DBAs. Exactly what goes into that calculation, I couldn't speak to, except to note that air conditioners were put at 60, so they are actually a little bit higher.
And when you say air conditioner, is that I'm sitting on my deck and the unit is to my right within 10 feet and this hum will be equivalent to that being running? I guess I'm trying to understand what air conditioner means.
Right, I think it's intended to mean like if you're standing beside your residential unit when it kicks on, it will be a 60 dBA sound. And I guess depending on, I don't have specifics on, the model or whether it's a new unit or an old unit. It's an industry standard for what that noise generally is.
And I thought you said something about air conditioner also at 50. I was trying to take notes here.
Let me get back to that table. So in 2.1-2, wait, that's the wrong one. I apologize. Let me get back to that. So, okay, so the 60 dB is the air conditioning unit at 20 feet.
Okay.
So that's the answer to that. And then light auto traffic, resident at 50 feet, residential air conditioner at 50 feet, and private business environment at 50 dBA.
Okay.
Were the two reference points we use.
Okay, so I'm trying to get a sense of, this is like your neighbor's air conditioner kicking on.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just trying to get some real world, I can read words, but it's if I say it out loud. I apologize.
Thank you. I guess that in looking at, maybe it's the Wells report at pages 7 and 8, essentially, and here's my concern, it says the industry-leading expert relied on or your report, I guess your response, Solar's response, this industry-leading expert relied on an article published by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency in 1974 supporting a determination that an LDN exceeding 55 dBA would adversely affect public health and welfare. Right? Adversely affect public health and welfare. And then it says, it's noted that the anticipated noise level during operation would be approximately 53.9. You're talking about the difference in 55 being affecting public health and welfare, and basically one that's 1.1 less than that. And what I submit is that if that's the case, that you and I'm not a big fan of all of those studies being exactly accurate, but if 55 has been determined to be potentially detrimental to health and welfare, and you got 53 or 54, I think that would be awful hard to live with. If I had to have it at night and all day, You know, I might want to read a book or watch television or just, you know, some people would find that to be a nuisance, to be quite honest. So I don't know, but I know that your limit here on the Madison County certification of land use restriction restricts it to 50 decibels when measured at the property line of the adjacent non-participating properties. But is there, in your experience, or to your knowledge, or to anybody else associated with Madison Solar, know of any cushioning material which could be placed between an inverter or a transformer and these properties which could absorb sound? Something
I'm
in
not
front
aware of
of
any.
an inverter that would basically, you know, like you use to insulate rooms from sound or noise.
Right. I am unaware of any material that is used for insulation or for insulating noise. I know that there are different things that can be constructed for noise insulation. I would like to point out, you mentioned that the county in their conditional use permit application set a standard of 50 dBA for the project. That order was issued after this initial noise study was complete. So we will be incorporating the ambient noise data into the existing study to see how that impacts it, because it does it right now without the ambient noise study. We're not calculating in how noisy the area is right now and whether or not it actually results in an increase. I understand from your previous comment about not having the experience of being able to walk around, you know, outside or within a solar farm, and I have done that several times. And I think an inverter noise is best described as a low hum. It is constant, but it is a low hum. And that generally when you get to the project fence area, it is not a noise you notice out, you know, any differently than you have things like road noise, which are generally louder than the inverter.
Well, I mean, the only reason I say this, I mean, it's in your interest, it's in the company's interest, basically, to take whatever reasonable measures may be available to keep the noise as low as reasonably possible, because it doesn't matter in the final analysis what we say or what the Madison County Fiscal Court says, but the law of nuisance is that if the noise offends a person of ordinary sensibilities, and all I'm saying is that you may get yourself in a situation where you get people filing suits, suing you for either the diminution in the value of your property or requiring you to do something to keep the noise levels lower. And I'm not sure what they are, but I having been involved in numerous such cases myself, I would suggest that if you can, to the extent that you can, think about noise and how to mitigate it. It's probably in your best interest to do so, and maybe nothing will happen even if people are offended. But, you know, they tend to, people that live near airports and other places where, you know, they have noise now that they didn't have before, they tend to get upset about it. And if it ends up in court, it just costs money and problems and in the community that nobody needs. But that's just my just my speech on it. But I would appreciate seeing your study when it's completed. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I don't have anything else. Mr. Osterloh, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Nguyen?
I do have one follow-up, Your Honor. Thank you. So Chairman Schmidt referenced the conditional use permit, and one of the requirements is that noise during operations should be limited to no more than 50 decibels as measured at the property line of an adjacent non-participating properties.
Correct.
And you mentioned that you know, the noise study was conducted before, I guess, the CUP was issued. And that the company is now doing an ambient noise study to determine, I guess, whether the noise will be below the 53.4 or whatever the results was determined by the noise and traffic study. So do you, I guess, in your estimation, will the ambient noise study have a measurable impact on the noise level that was produced by the noise and traffic study?
The ambient, so the noise study as provided is based on, the components of the project that create noise, and then makes calculations on how that noise carries, and then the distance to the noise receptors. But it does it without, as it stands, it does it without the ambient noise study. So the ambient noise study will take into consideration what the existing levels of noise are in the project area, and then will be calculated to determine whether or not the ambient noise is actually going to diffuse any of the project component noise or make it sharper, right? So it will inform us either way in terms of how absorptive the noise environment is. So then the project will be reevaluated based on that ambient noise. And then if the components of the project that generate noise, like the inverters or the transformers, need to be relocated or microsited in order to get under that 50 dBA threshold, that will be a process that Axiona's engineering department undertakes with the results of the ambient noise study.
Okay, would that be the only alternative left for the company if the 50 dBA or the 50 decibels cannot be achieved after the ambient noise study is conducted? Would relocating the inverters be the only alternative for the company to achieve reducing the noise level below the CUP limit?
No, it would not be the only. There could also be some structural or landscaping options, depending on the equipment and depending on the location.
Okay. Would you be the person knowledgeable about when the, I guess, when that requirement will be submitted to the Madison County Planning Board for review?
I would not. We would submit those results to Axiona, and then my anticipation would be that they would be the ones that would communicate that to the county.
Okay, all right, thank you. Those are all the questions I have.
Mr. Thomas, Judge Taylor, any questions? Any questions from anyone else?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Rowland, any questions? Nothing? Okay. Commissioner Matthews.
I don't have any questions, thank you.
All right, Ms. Montgomery, you may be excused, and I appreciate your presence and your testimony. Thank you.
Thank you,
At this
sir.
time, the court reporter, I'm sorry. Oh, court reporter needs a break. So let's go into recess until 5 minutes until 11 o'clock. That's about a 15-minute recess. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and thank you. Our next witness will be Kyle Gerking.
Okay, Mr. Gerking, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Mr. Osterloh, you may ask.
And thanks. Mr. Gerking, can you please state your name for the record?
Kyle Gerking.
And just so the record's clear, you answered affirmatively to the chairman swearing you in, correct? I think you were on mute.
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you. For whom do you work, Kyle?
I work for Tenaska Inc.,
What is your title?
Director of Engineering,
And what's your business address?
14302 FNB Parkway, Omaha, Nebraska, 68154.
Can you describe to the siting board what the affiliation is between Tenaska and Acciona or AEUG Madison Solar?
Tenaska was the original developer of the Madison Solar project. We sold that project within a portfolio to Acciona, and we have an ongoing development services arrangement with them where Tenaska provides development services in support of the project on an ongoing basis.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Gerking is available for questions if there are any.
Thank you. Mr. Nguyen?
Yes, Your Honor, just a couple of questions. Good morning still, Mr. Gerking. Can you hear me okay?
I can, thank you.
Okay, good. I just have a couple of questions related to the conditional use permit requirements that's imposed by Madison County. Would you be the person that would be knowledgeable about those questions?
I'm knowledgeable of the conditional use permit, but I may defer those to Adam depending on the question.
Okay. Would Adam be the main witness to address these type of questions then, in terms of what the, in terms of how AEUG Madison will satisfy certain particular requirements imposed by the CUP?
I would say yes.
Okay, then I will hold off on asking Mr. Stratton that. No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Thomas, Judge Taylor, any questions?
No, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any questions, but I will say good morning to Kyle. It's good to see you, buddy.
Good morning.
Mr. Rowland, questions?
No questions from me.
Dr. Matthews?
No questions for me.
I have no questions. So, Mr. Officer, unless you have something to ask, this witness can be excused.
No questions here.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gerking. You may be excused.
Thank you.
You may call your next witness.
Thank you. Our last witness is Adam Stratton.
Mr. Stratton, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Mr. Osterloh, you may ask.
Thank you. Adam, would you please state your name for the record?
Adam Stratton,
And for whom do you work?
Acciona Energy.
What's your business address?
55 East Monroe Street, Suite 1925, Chicago, Illinois, 60603.
What's your title with Acciona Energy?
Director, Solar Energy.
And can you describe what your role is with AEUG Madison Solar?
Sure. AEUG Solar, Madison Solar is one of the projects that I oversee the development of. So I engage with all of the third-party contractors and work side by side with Kyle at Tenaska in the overall development of the project.
Appreciate that. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Stratton's available for questions.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Nguyen, questions?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Stratton. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, good morning, thank you.
Okay, good. AEUG Madison for this solar facility has obtained conditional use permit from Madison County. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and then there are certain requirements under the conditional use permit that has to be satisfied by AEUG Madison. Just want to run through just a couple of those and see what the status is with respect to the development of those particular measures to satisfy those requirements. The first is there has to be an initial maintenance plan and then continuing maintenance plan filed annually after the initial plan's filed. And the maintenance plan addresses a few things. It addresses any physical modifications to the solar farm and or its infrastructure, complaints pertaining to setbacks, noise, appearance, safety, lighting, and any use of public roads received by AEUG Madison concerning the solar facility and resolutions of such complaints, maintenance of access roads, vegetation control. Do you know when the initial maintenance plan will be developed and submitted by AEUG Madison Solar to Madison County?
We plan to provide that before we start construction.
Okay. And remind me again, the construction is slated to begin tentatively at the end of this year, is that correct?
Correct, in the fourth quarter.
Okay. And so when you say before construction begins, you know, when in advance of construction will the maintenance plan be submitted to Madison County?
We haven't decided that yet. It's something that would have an ongoing, engaging discussion with the planning and zoning director. So, I think we'll come to a mutually agreeable time frame beforehand, that there's time for review and whatnot between the parties, if any.
Okay. And so, yeah, there's certain timeframes that are built into the review of the maintenance plan. So the Planning and Development Director of Madison County and the Planning Development Office will have an on-site field inspection of the solar facility within 30 days of the submittal of the plan. So I guess AEUG Madison is factoring all those timing as well in terms of when the maintenance plan will be submitted.
Absolutely. We plan on respecting all the terms and conditions of the CUP to comply and make sure that it's reasonable timing for the planning director to review and make decisions based on our submission.
Okay. With respect to has AEUG Madison Solar received any complaints, any feedback related to issues with respect to noise or visual impact from any of the nearby property owners, I guess non-participating nearby property owners with respect to the proposed solar facility?
Yes, we have. And so one, yes, we have. Two, yes, we received a number of concerns from adjacent landowners with respect to mostly visual impact, and one in regards to noise during the process of the CUP. We kept a record of these, and they were shared with us, actually, anything that was submitted to the Planning and Zoning Board. They shared that with us. We responded to each and every one of those and communicated directly with all the landowners, addressing whether their concern was noise or visual impact. Had conversations with them and let them know that either in a lot of cases they thought that they were closer to the facility, or once we showed them how close they actually were to the facility, the majority of all of those were dispelled. There are a few that have concerns still about visual impact, and we are working with them on a visual impact screening plan, just as it delineated in the CUP.
And that has to be provided as part of the maintenance plan in terms of how AEUG Madison Solar will address, those type of issues.
Correct. I would refer to it as a complaint resolution plan.
Okay. And you say that you all are still having ongoing discussions with those particular neighboring property owners to resolve any concerns that they may have?
Absolutely.
Okay. What are the types of measures that AEUG Madison has proposed in order to address those property owners' issues?
As in the CUP, we've suggested screening that is referred to as continuous line of native foliage and or similar, as well as any other landscaping that may be acceptable to the landowner, whether that's on our property or theirs.
Okay. And then the one of the other requirement of the CUP is that the solar facility should be designed and located to prevent or limit glare towards any adjacent properties and all roadways, in addition to any requirements from the Federal Aviation Administration. Can you explain how AEUG Madison will comply with this particular requirement?
Sure. Primarily, we're doing that through the engineering design of the facility to optimize or prevent any glare. And in most cases, this is easily facilitated due to the topography and the large setbacks from nearby properties and also from roadways.
Does AEUG Madison have to submit a study, a glare study, in order to prove that this requirement by the CUP has been satisfied to the Madison County Planning Board?
No, we do not.
Okay. How does then, how would Madison County know that this particular requirement has been complied with?
I'm unsure.
I mean, will you all communicate with the county with respect to this requirement to, I guess, inform them of you all meeting the requirements, short of doing a formal study?
Absolutely. In compliance, as listed as in compliance with FAA, we'd be prepared to compare design against and in compliance with FAA regulations. And also, as I said, the kind of optimization of the engineering based on the lay of the land and the distance from any potential neighboring receptors or roadways, given the 200-foot setback, should give us compliance.
Does AEUG Madison Solar anticipate conducting a glare study in order to comply with this particular requirement?
No, we do not.
Regarding, were you Did you hear the questions that were presented to Ms. Montgomery earlier with respect to noise generated during the operations of the solar facility, in particular the noise generated by the inverters?
I did.
Okay. One of the requirements of the CUP is that noise during operation should be no louder than 50 decibels as measured at the property line of an adjacent non-participating property. To the extent that the ambient noise study does not reduce the current operating noise level that's reflected in the noise and traffic study of 54 decibels. What will AEUG Madison do in order to comply with this particular noise requirement by the CUP?
Sorry, just to clarify, if there's no engineering resolve to solve this, was that the question?
Well, if it turns out that the ambient noise study doesn't reduce the 54 decibel that during operations as reflected in the noise and traffic study, so that means that you're out of compliance with the CUP, which requires, no noise level greater than 50 decibels during operations. So how would AEUG Madison, what would AEUG Madison do in order to come into compliance with this particular CUP requirement?
Sure, thank you for that clarification. Yeah, I think as April stated, there could be some engineering micrositing done, which would really mean moving an inverter, and it may not be of any distance that would affect the overall project design. There could be some landscape solutions in there as well, maybe bolstering some existing tree line or standing tree line or something of that nature, which would be preferable, if any. I think that those would probably be really the two things we would look to for that specific case. I believe we're talking about one specific receptor, are we not? That's in the 600 odd foot or 700 odd foot range from the nearest inverter, correct?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
The only thing that's mentioned is that the closest property is about 650 some odd feet away.
Understood.
But just in terms of what the CUP requirement is that it's measured at the property line of an adjacent non-participating property owner. So,
correct.
You've got a different measurement that's required by the CUP. So how would AEUG Madison Solar provide Madison County a noise study to show that it will be in compliance with this particular requirement?
We could do that, yes.
Okay. Well, I'm asking you, is that what's required or anticipated by the company in order to show Madison County that this particular requirement will be complied with?
Yes, I believe it is.
Okay. And you also mentioned that the CUP requires landscape screening to be installed between the required fencing and the perimeter of the solar facility.
That's correct.
Okay. Is there a landscape screening plan that's being developed and produced by AEUG Madison Solar in order to show Madison County that it will be in compliance with this particular requirement?
Yes, there is.
Okay. And how far along is that formal landscape landscaping screen plan? What's the status of it now?
It's in a draft version at the moment, being reviewed by ourselves and the consultants.
Do you know when that plan will be completed?
I do not offhand.
Okay. So even though it's a draft version, can I request that that version be filed with the siting board so that there's something in the record that that the siting board has with respect to, you know, landscape screening plan by AEUG Madison Solar?
Yes, you may.
Okay.
We can review the status of that, and certainly as a post-hearing data request, if you want to make that request, we can see where it is and probably supply what we can.
Okay. And then also, if you can, provide an estimated, you know, time period of when that will be completed.
Okay.
There's also a requirement of a roads survey being submitted to the Madison County Planning. Do you know when AEUG Madison anticipates submitting the road survey?
Yeah, we will submit that survey prior to construction.
Okay, but do you know when prior to construction, when that will be submitted?
Well, generally the concept is within reason that there's no risk of damage between the time we submit and the time the survey is done. So whenever's reasonable. I don't have a time frame on that right now, but you can see what I mean. The gap between the two would make the survey not non-valuable. So we would attempt to do that in the shortest time between when we get it done and when construction starts.
Okay. And also, the CUP requires the submission of a decommissioning plan.
Yes, it does.
Do you know when AEUG Madison expects to submit that decommissioning plan to the Madison County Planning Board?
Again, that's just prior to construction start.
Okay. So have you all started on developing a decommissioning plan as of now?
No, we have not.
Those are all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Mr. Thomas, Judge Taylor, any questions?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Adam.
Mr. Rowland?
Reagan.
Mr. Rowland, any questions?
No.
Oh, okay. Dr. Matthews, any questions for this witness?
I just have a couple. Tell me about your plan for traffic and hours of operation, both during construction and then under normal operating conditions?
Sure. For a traffic plan during construction, we would submit a traffic plan and work with local roads commissioner in order to control that traffic with appropriate signage, depending on if they're local and state roads. Also advise KDOT on our traffic plan. Look at all pre-existing road conditions and weight limits on roads, whether they be local and state, and comply with those. During operations period, we don't expect this facility to have any other impact on local roads or traffic other than that of basically another home added to the project area. So call it three or four vehicles that would circulate the area surrounding the project on a daily basis to use the access roads. Most of that traffic would be internal to the project, not external on the local roads. Sorry, is there something I didn't address?
No, I just wondered what hours you
Oh,
were
sorry.
planning for construction and for, I guess, normal operating hours is really not as big an issue with this as it is the construction phase.
Correct, yeah, sorry. I honestly can't remember what's referred to in the application. I would think it would be kind of a 7 to 7, but I'd have to check on that in the filing.
That be 6 days a week or 7?
I believe that'd be 7 days a week.
That's all I have, Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Stratton, I guess there's an Exhibit 1 to one of your filings here. Maybe it was a response, company's response to the Wells report. I'm not sure. But anyway, it has this document marked conditional use permit, certification of land use restriction. Has the conditional use permit already been issued by Madison County Planning and Zoning Commission or some other official body of Madison County?
Yes, it has, Your Honor. It's been issued by the Madison County Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay.
Yes,
So,
or the Board of Adjustments, actually.
So the Board of Adjustment, so the company, Madison Solar, is actually, assuming that the project moves forward, is bound by these restrictions contained in the conditional use permit, correct?
That's correct.
I have no further questions. Mr. Osterloh, any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Nguyen, any of the siding board members, anything further of this witness?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Stratton. You may be excused.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Does that constitute all of your witnesses, Mr. Osterloh, or is there someone else?
No, that's all our witnesses, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
I guess we have just a couple of things. There will be, a post-hearing data request or requests, but most of those will involve the filing of reports which at this time are not complete, correct?
That's correct.
So we will, Mr. Nguyen can get those out within the next few days, and I guess the responses will be due when the reports are completed. With some condition, I guess, that if they aren't complete, submit, if you have a draft or whatever preliminary information you have, especially on noise and some of these things. Is there anything else at this time, Mr. Osterloh, that you'd like to present or bring to the attention of the siding board?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Judge Taylor and Mr. Thomas, at some point, what we'll have to do is make arrangements to have another meeting just between the siding board members so that we can discuss these issues. If there are any questions or anything you would like us to obtain from Madison Solar, you can let us know, or maybe Mr. Nguyen can give you a call, and we'll include that in your, in the data requests. I don't know if you have anything at this time, but perhaps by the time we send them out.
Yeah, or they can email me as well.
Okay, email, yeah, and so that you'll have an opportunity, if there's other information you would like, you or Mr. Thomas, that you can have that, okay?
I have a question. Were we talking about a time frame of a next month or two, or when will we get together again?
Well, the final order has to be entered, I think someone said June the 9th. So we're talking about the next, I think Madison Solar has indicated, Ms. Montgomery maybe, that the noise study will be completed by mid-May, and hopefully some of these others will, so we'll have those in hand that everyone can look at, you know, when we start talking about
That's fine. It'd be sometime later part of May, then it sounds like.
Yeah,
Or we'll-
it will be
Okay.
sometime during at least mid-May. Yeah, because we have to have something done by June 9th. Okay?
One more thing, I'd like to compliment you on running streaming a good meeting. All right, I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I don't know. As I said, I don't know if you probably didn't see the one we had. I guess it was with Mr. Gardner, with Mr. Oshlow's office, where we had a bunch of people call in, and they're all in on the same line. And one lady took a lot more time, and then when somebody else called in and had an opposing point of view, she started talking into the phone and arguing with him, and I didn't feel like that was a very I didn't manage that very well, I'm afraid. But anyway, it's been, I think it's been a good hearing, and unless everyone has something else to add, we'll go ahead and adjourn the hearing. Okay? This hearing is now adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.